Hello everyone and welcome to the final round of the Chennai Grandmasters tournament. We have a game between Ray Robson and Vincent Keymer. Now Ray has been having a terrible tournament. He's currently in last place and if anything he would very much enjoy winning the last round with the white pieces, finishing on a high note. And Vincent, he's been having a great tournament. He already won the tournament one full round before the tournament ends, and not only that, with just the previous victory, he broke into the world top 10 for the first time in his life. Now he's already 2700 for quite some time now, being 2750, almost 2750, being in the world top 10. He can just enjoy a nice game with the black pieces. He doesn't even need to show up. He already won the tournament. So a clash of two very different existences, if you will, you know. So yeah, let's check it out. Ray with white opens with pawn to d4. We have knight to f6, pawn to c4, and pawn to e6. We have knight to f3, not allowing the Nimzo Indian with knight to c3. So knight to f3, the so-called anti-Nimzo, and pawn to b6. Vincent opts for the Queen's Indian defense. That is most usually countered with pawn to g3, but here we have pawn to a3, the second most popular continuation against this setup of the Queen's Indian. Bishop to b7, we have knight to c3, and pawn to g6. We have queen to c2, pawn to d5, and c captures on d5. We have e captures on d5, and bishop to f4. We have pawn to a6 and pawn to g3. Again, nothing new here, all been played before. Bishop to g7, we have bishop to g2, castles, castles, and now there are a couple of games where, for example, knight b to d7 was played. Not in modern times, though. Last one was in 1998 between Joe Lottier and Eugenio Torre, where the game ended in a draw. But here we have rook to e8 by Vincent, and it is now, as of move 11, that we have a completely new game. So, okay, rook f to d1. We have knight b to d7, now preparing rook to c8, pawn to c6, maybe even pawn to c5, rook 8 to c1, and pawn to c6. And now there are a couple of ways you could play this. You could play e3, h3, h4, a4. So all reasonable ideas. Something like, let's say we play h4, rook to c8, let's say pawn to e3, pawn to c5. You can capture, let's say captures, and now maybe even bishop h3 could prove to be somewhat annoying for black. But Ray goes pawn to a4 instead. We have pawn to a5 by Vincent and bishop to d6, with the idea that if the knight moves and the queen attacks the bishop, then he wants to go bishop back to e5. And if the knight remains there, then the bishop remains on d6, being sort of a bone in black's throat. We have pawn to h5, pawn to e3, and knight to b8, just attacking the bishop, and now Ray goes back, bishop to e5. We have knight to a6 by Vincent, going for that b4 square, as once you've played a4, yes, you've grabbed more space, but you have left sort of a weakness on b4. Not a weakness, but let's say a weak square. We have pawn to b3, knight to b4, attacking the queen on c2, and queen b1. And here, bishop to c8. Vincent says that the bishop is no longer useful on this diagonal. He wants to go to f5 and further, sorry, not that, obviously, and further harass the white queen. So Ray prepares queen to b2. We have bishop to f5 and queen to e2. We have bishop back to f8, now trying to maybe go bishop to d6 to counter the bishop on e5, and pawn to h4. Now Ray grabs more space on the king side, but that means he also weakens the g4 square. Now with the weak b4 and g4 square, Vincent says those are excellent outposts for my pieces. Bishop to g4. We have knight a2 challenging the knight, and just rook to c8. Knight captures on b4, a captures on b4, and queen to a6. Now with some ideas of pawn to a5 and then weakening the c6 pawn, but Vincent says no problem, I'm just going to grab more active squares. Knight to e4. We have pawn to a5, and Vincent boldly captures. Pawn captures on a5. We have rook captures on c6, and now rook captures on c6, followed by queen captures on c6. And now there are many ways you could continue this. Vincent's position is much better, but there is one move that is particularly painful for white to face. So have at it. What would you play here if you were playing black in this position? While I give you a couple of seconds. So Vincent played queen to a8 with a very straightforward idea of trading queens and then executing pawn to a4. But you could play pawn to a4 right away, and congratulations if you found that one. Point being that you either capture with the pawn and then you already have a passed pawn on b4 and then b3, or you capture with the queen and then simply knight to c3. Forks the queen and the rook. And if you go pawn captures, like we've already discussed, you can play queen c8, you trade queens, let's say captures, pawn to a5, pawn to b3. And if rook to b1, you can easily win the game on the spot. Let's say captures, knight d2 with a nice fork, and that's it. Regardless of what white plays, white is lost here. But okay, Vincent went queen to a8, also very strong and very, very hard to disprove. Plus, they are also very low on time, so you don't have all the time to calculate. Rook to c1, and Vincent feels very comfortable going into this endgame. Captures, we have rook to c8, and rook captures on c8. Rook to b6 would have been a bit more solid, but he trades, and now knight to g5 offers a trade of knights. Vincent just goes knight to c3. We have knight to f3 and pawn to a4, which means that he has now created a passed pawn. And how is white to counter b3, b2, and b1? We have b captures on a4, b3, bishop to f1, and pawn to b2, bishop to d3. Now getting ready to give up the bishop. It's if pawn to b1 is played, but Vincent is not in a hurry. He goes bishop to b4. We have king to g2 and now bishop to f5, offering a trade of bishops, which means that the b1 square will be unattended. Bishop captures on f5, g captures, we have knight to d2. Now the knight covers the b1 square. Again, Ray hopes to give up the knight if Vincent decides to promote, but Vincent says nope, not in a rush. Knight captures on a4, now threatens to pick up the knight. Knight b1, here we have knight back to c3, offering a trade. Ray moves the knight back, again hopes to trade if Vincent promotes, but Vincent again says I am not in a rush, goes knight to b5, and he was in this position on move 41 that Ray Robson resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So seemingly very, very simple victory, which is what we expect from a top 10 player. And now at 2750, Vincent Keymer. Here you resign because your knight is hanging. Once you move the knight, then a simple knight a3, and that's it. The bishop covers all of the squares that the knight can go to, and that's it. You're going to have to trade captures. Next move, Vincent gets a queen. And yeah, that's it. And what does this mean for the standings? Well, for the standings, this means that Vincent has won the tournament 2 full points ahead of everyone. And ahead of everyone, I mean incredibly strong players like Anish Giri, Arjun Nirgaisi, and Murli Karthikeyan. So 3 of them on 5 points, Vincent on 7. Then on 4.5, Nihal Sarin and Awonder, Liang, Vidit, and Jordan on 4. Pranav on 3, and Ray Robson are on 3. So this is a 2700 plus tournament. Maybe a few players are 20, like Ray Robson is 2687, which is almost 2700, and some players like Arjun, for example, are much higher than 27 and 2750. So winning this tournament 2 full points ahead of everyone, winning over 20 rating points now puts Vincent as he's still world number 10. You can see that he is 2750.9, winning 20 points, almost 21 rating point. Pretty much only one in the top 15, even top 20 winning rating. Which is usually how it works, because not everyone of these top guys is playing a classical event, especially like Magnus, who plays once a year. And yeah, I mean, incredible stuff. Vincent now 2750, less than 3 points to Wei Yi. Then it's Alireza for 2766, and okay, then you have to win a bit more points to get into the top 5, like Noderbek, Gukesh, Pragnananda, and Arjun. But yeah, big congratulations to Vincent hitting getting into top 10 for the first time, hitting 2750 for the first time. It's we all knew that he was gonna get there. It was only a matter of time, and now it's a question of how far can he push. And of course, is he world champion material or not? Can we imagine him challenging Gukesh for the title, winning the next candidates? He's definitely in the conversation. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Brilliant stuff by Vincent as usual, taking down a very, very strong player, like I said, seemingly with ease. I would like to thank Alexander Schaefer, Milos Knežević, Gerhard Henkelman, Amar Mirza, and Derek King for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.